welcome to episode 12 of the Cozy Cottage Crochet Podcast. My name is Hannah, and as always, I am coming to you from St. Petersburg, Florida, in the United States, where I live. Hello, how are you? It's been a crazy couple of weeks. I will get into that in just a moment, but first I want to say a great big hello and welcome to all of my returning viewers. Thank you so much for coming back, and if you are a new viewer, welcome. Glad you're here. The absolute best way to get a hold of me is to shoot me an email if you have any inquiries or questions related to the podcast specifically. Please do shoot me an email at thecozycottagecrochet@gmail.com. That will ensure I get back to you as quickly as possible. And I am active on social media, most active on Instagram, but you can find me on Facebook as well, all under the Cozy Cottage Crochet. So before we jump into any kind of yarny content today, I wanted to give you guys an update on the hurricane. So many of you have reached out to me and wanted to know if I was okay, what was going on. We had Hurricane Irma basically take over the entire state of Florida. So I want to give you an update on that. I am okay. We are fine here in our house. There was part of our fence got knocked down. There are trees down everywhere, the power lines down. In our home, my husband and I actually did not lose any power. It blinked on and off about 50 times on Sunday night, and literally every time I was like, this is it. This is the one that's going to get it for good. And then it would come back on a couple of seconds later, which is crazy. So we actually never lost power for good, which was fantastic because we had my parents staying with us. We had another couple that was staying with us who live a few miles away because we live in a concrete block house, and we did actually get the roof replaced on it last year. So it's a fairly sturdy structure as opposed to living in a wood frame house or a trailer or something like that. In an evacuation zone, they just don't hold up to winds very well. So we have a pretty sturdy house. My husband and I stayed up all night on Sunday. Everyone else was asleep, which I'm glad they got some rest. But we stayed up all night, like literally mopping up the water that was coming in under our garage door, even through sandbags. So we had sandbags all on the front of our garage door and in front of our front door, but the wind was blowing the rain sideways. So you know where the panels of the garage kind of connect, so like they fold up when they go up into the roof of the garage. Water was literally coming in between the panels because the wind was blowing it straight at the garage door, which I've never seen that before. So we filled up a couple of buckets of water with the water that was coming in the garage, underneath the garage door. I don't even know what would happen if we did not have sandbags. Probably the whole garage would have been flooded. So next time, hopefully there's no next time, but I mean, I've lived in Florida for 20 years now, so there's going to be a next time, you guys. We know how to prepare for hurricanes here. We had our windows boarded up, we had sandbags, we had plenty of food, and there are some hurricane tips and tricks if you don't live in a hurricane area that we know because we deal with this all the time. We actually didn't have any flooding like in St. Petersburg, in Tampa, which is they're fairly low-lying areas, so normally when it rains hard you get flooding. But Hurricane Irma actually sucked all the water out of the bay, the Tampa Bay and the Gulf of Mexico. It reduced the water level and then it pushed it all back in later. After the rain had stopped and the storm had passed. So I saw a picture of a destroyer on the beach in, I believe it was Alabama or maybe Mississippi, and it was literally sitting on the ground. The water had receded that much, and it wasn't that close to the shore. In Tampa Bay, which is not far from where I live, the water had gone out several hundred yards. Like you could just walk in Tampa Bay on sand, which is crazy. There were some people who did it. I think that is ridiculous. You should not go out when there's no water in Tampa Bay. There were people that were surfing I know there's hurricane chasers in Florida that will go surf in the waves that are created, especially on the Atlantic side, because we don't get the crazy waves like California does that are good for surfing. There were people, we were watching the news coverage all night long, and there were people just like walking around outside in a hurricane. What is wrong with you is what I want to know. I was inside in my house, boarded up, and I was listening to the wind all night long, and it was terrifying. Okay? It sounds, I don't want to say it sounds like a freight train because that's what everyone says. I think that a tornado sounds like a freight train. A hurricane, it was more gusts, so it would be quiet for a second, and then it would literally be like your whole house was shaking a little bit. There were trees, branches, debris flying everywhere. We got a sign in our backyard, like a cigarettes for sale sign that was like, it was huge. We do not live within a mile of a corner store or any place that sells cigarettes like that. So where did it come from? The wind took it very, very far away. I saw a branch that had come off of some tree, obviously. But I was looking out of our front door. We have, I don't know if you can see behind me, those little windows. Woo! I cannot figure out how to work the camera when I'm facing it. Those right there. I was peering out them because we hadn't boarded those up, and there was a huge tree branch, probably as tall as I am, standing straight up in the air, about 4 feet off the ground, and I was looking out the window, and it just went like this in front of the window. How creepy is that? It was huge. It's a branch as big as me, and the wind was just carrying it straight up with like a little tree across the neighborhood. There was a house about a block down from us. I don't know, maybe you saw the picture on Instagram. A tree got uprooted and it fell on top of 2 cars. There weren't a lot of people where I live personally that had their homes damaged. There was just a lot of trees down. I want to say I heard the numbers of like 70 to 80% of the county that I live in did not have power by Sunday morning. Not Sunday morning, Monday morning. And across the state of Florida, about 6-7 million people did not have power. And still there are people who don't have power. The friends who came to stay with us last week, they still don't have power. And the power company promised to have everything up by last night, which was Friday night. No. I know better than to trust that because I've lived here a long time and I've been through hurricanes before. Hurricane parties as a child, I always thought they were fun. Like, they involved packing up my favorite toys, going to my grandmother's house, eating snacks, playing board games in the living room, sleeping on the floor with my cousins. Like, super fun. Hurricane parties as an adult, okay, that involves standing in line for 3 hours to get sandbags, trying to get some water bottles from the grocery store before everyone buys like 100 cases of water and wipes the store out. It involves boarding up your windows, which is hard. Boards are really heavy, and I have a battle wound that's mostly healed right here. It looks way better than it did a week ago because there was a rusty, I don't know if it was rusty, but it was a screw sticking out from the back of one of our plywood boards that are fit for our front windows, and I was not paying attention, and I just impaled my hand on it. Luckily, I got a tetanus shot recently, so I didn't have to worry about that. You have to hang up boards, and then you have to clean up after the hurricane passes. I didn't do any of that as a child. I remember hurricanes being awesome as a child. As an adult, they're terrifying because you own things when you're an adult, and you don't want them to be damaged. Like, I don't want my car to have a tree fall on it. I don't want the wind to rip the roof off my house or the flooding to come into our garage and underneath our garage door. So I'm laughing because I'm just happy it's over. But I know that for a lot of people, Hurricane Irma and especially Hurricane Harvey caused significant loss in their life. Like, some people lost everything. There's still floodwater in Houston right now. The Florida Keys, Key West, which my husband and I have been through a couple of times, we actually got engaged on Key Largo, which is the first big key that you get to when you're traveling down through the Florida Keys after you leave Florida. And for those of you who don't know, the Florida Keys are big islands. Well, some of them are big islands, some of them are little bitty islands. And there's a road that's one lane each way for most of it that goes all the way down to the bottom. And Key West is the southernmost point in the United States. And most of Key West, the buildings are damaged. I want to say like I can't remember the statistics, but a huge portion of the buildings in Key West are damaged, uninhabitable. There were people who actually did not leave the Keys. They had a mandatory evacuation for any visitors, and they had mandatory evacuation after that for any residents, but there are people who don't stay. So, and for those of you who don't know what that is, a mandatory evacuation means once the county puts in an evacuation order, they will come through your neighborhood with loudspeakers. They will knock on your door. They say you have to leave. However, you don't actually have to leave. They cannot physically take you from your house. But if you stay, they will not come and help you. So if you're in evacuation zone A or B, which is what the county I live in, those are the evacuation orders they issued. And we're in the middle of the state. So all of the Keys were under a mandatory evacuation. If you stay and you have a heart attack, if you stay and you are in the middle of having a baby, they are not coming to help you. They're not coming to get you. There is no way for them to get you. You're on your own. So that's what a mandatory evacuation means. A lot of people don't take them seriously. But it's hard to know what to do because so many people just want to like insert their opinions, especially people who don't live in the area, because they're like, oh, if a hurricane was coming, I would just leave. But it's not that simple. First of all, where are you going to go? Some hurricanes are small enough where you could just go to the other side of the state, go north a little bit, and you'll avoid it. Hurricane Irma was 400 miles wide. That's twice as wide as Florida. It covered the entire state. So a lot of people fled to Georgia and South Carolina, which then got slammed by Hurricane Irma. If you are going to leave, how are you going to manage with your job? Because most businesses don't close. The company that I work for only closed on the Friday before Hurricane Irma was going to hit because the building was in a mandatory evacuation zone. So they could not be open. So if you have a job, it's easy to say I would just leave, but what if you have no vacation time? What if you're in a job that doesn't give you any vacation time? Everyone says your life is the most important thing, and I completely agree it is. You can replace things, you can replace houses, you cannot replace people. However, it's not always feasible for people to leave. If they do leave, you run into hours-long traffic jams. I had a friend who it took them from Miami to get to Orlando, which is maybe a 4-hour drive, maybe. Took them 11 hours in a car because of how 6 million people evacuated from Florida. That's like half of Florida's population. So let's say you're stuck on the road for 13 hours in a day with cranky children. Does that sound pleasant to you? Also, stuck on the road, what if there's no gas? Gas stations started running out of gas on Wednesday, the week before Irma came. I was able to get gas on Wednesday, and then we just didn't really drive that much. I went to work on Thursday, and that was it. But I would hate to be stuck on the interstate with no gas when there's a hurricane coming. So the rule of thumb is, in hurricanes, if you're worried about the water, rising water or storm surge, you get out. If you're worried about the wind, you stay put because you can escape from slowly rising water. You can't really escape from a flash flood. As we've seen in Houston, a lot of people did not know how deep the water was. The water rose too quickly. They were stuck on the roads, and that's what caused a lot of the fatalities. But for Hurricane Irma, there was not a ton of rising water, so you could get out. But you do not want to be stuck out in the open in a vehicle when there's hurricane force winds, because it will just blow your car around. And we only had a hurricane level 2 when it came actually past our house. Naples, which is down south a little bit of us, got hit by a number 3. If it had been a category 4, I think everyone in our house, we would have packed up and gone to the shelter that was a mile away, because I don't want to mess with a Category 4 hurricane. Category 3, I think we could have handled no problem. It's scary to listen to the wind, but we could have handled that. But a Category 4 and up, I mean, those winds are insane. They're just insane. So before you just start asking people, well, why didn't you leave? This is what I would have done. Just know it's not that simple. And by the time you can leave, there may not be any gas. There may not be a way for you to get out. There may not be any hotels available in the place that you're trying to go. So it's either stay put or go to a shelter. And shelters are like 1,000 people in a high school gymnasium half the time with no beds. So they're kind of smelly because it's not like if the power goes out in the shelter, you don't have any electricity. There's no place for you to clean up really, other than the bathroom sink. So it can get pretty crazy. So I'm just really incredibly thankful that it was not worse. My heart it just breaks for the people in the Florida Keys, in the islands that were devastated by Hurricane Irma, and especially for those people in Houston. I know what a hurricane can do. I've lived through several of them, more than several, because I've been in Florida for a long time. So I'm glad that we are okay, but because we are okay, I know that means that other people are not, because the full force of the hurricane hit somewhere else. So if you have a chance to house someone who doesn't have electricity or donate to some relief effort, Claudia from the Crochet Luna podcast mentioned a website where you can actually donate yarn to people in Houston who have completely lost their yarn stash. And I know that doesn't seem like much when someone lost their whole house, but we all know crochet and knitting and yarny things are kind of what keeps us sane a lot of times. So if you can imagine being in a shelter, coming back, finding your whole house is gone, basically, and then not having any way to crochet or knit or do anything that brings you a sense of comfort. So I will put all of the links for that website down below in the YouTube drop down so that you can click on that. I think it's a great organization and they're doing great stuff. I do want to give a special thank you to my 2 moderators in the Cozy Cottage Crochet Ravelry group, Sharon and Rebecca. They have completely kept the Ravelry group going. I have barely been online this week other than to just give updates, and I have barely had any crochet time because everything has been insane. But Sharon actually put up a post. I was communicating with her via email, and I was expecting to lose power, so I would just send her quick updates, and she would post them in the Ravelry group for anyone who wanted to know what was up in my little corner of the world. And I have read every single one of those posts. I have not had a chance to respond yet, but I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for your concern. I really appreciate it, but we are okay, and I'm relieved that it's over. Hopefully we will not have another hurricane come through this year. Although hurricane season goes until the end of November. So it is possible. But that's enough about that. Excuse me. Let me give you, before I show you what I've been hooking, some Crochet-along news. As you all know, if you watched the last episode, September 1st kicked off the September Shawl-along, Crochet-along that I am hosting. Goes from now until October 31st. So you still have a month and a half. You have time if you want to join in on the September Shawl-along. The only stipulation is it does have to be a new project. And it does have to be some kind of shawl. So it could be a shawl, a shawlette, a scarf, a wrap, an infinity scarf, anything you would wear around your neck. You can enter into the September Shawl-along. You can post your pictures on Instagram using the hashtag September Shawl-along. There is a chatter thread, which has like over 200 posts on it in the Ravelry group, Cozy Cottage Crochet Podcast. There is a finished object thread, which already has some finished objects. I'm very impressed. you guys. So we do have some prizes to give away at the end of this, so get your finished objects in. You can double dip. So if you are making the Layula shawl, which is a pattern by Irma from Potter and Bloom, you can absolutely enter it into her Crochet-along, the Cacao, and the September shawl-along. You can triple dip. If you can manage it, you can quadruple dip. I don't care. Spread the yarn love. So that is going on right now. I'm so excited to see all of the progress everyone is making. And then upcoming is going to be a Tunisian crochet-along hosted by Claudia of the Crochet Luna podcast and me. We're going to jointly host a super simple Tunisian cow. And the idea we have is we're going to have a set of 4 dishcloths. She's going to have 2 on her page. I will have 2 on my page. They will both, or all 4, will have video tutorials as well as a pattern. So if you have been intimidated by Tunisian crochet, if you're not intimidated, but you've never done it before, or if you just want to make some Tunisian crochet dishcloths, we invite you to join that. The dates, I believe, will be the month of October, but we're going to hammer that down in just a few days, and then we'll let you guys know what that is for. It's only going to be a month, and at the end of it, you can totally give the dishcloths as a Christmas present, or be selfish, keep them for yourself. So more details on that coming up soon. If you would like to donate a prize to either of those crochet-alongs, please just shoot me an email. We've had some lovely people offer to donate prizes so far, which I will be showing later on this episode and in an upcoming episode as well. I love to share yarn love, so just shoot me an email, and we can make sure that it is filed away as a prize. Okay, that was a lot of stuff before we've even talked about yarn, right? That was a lot. Now, as I said before, I have not had a ton of crochet time. The hurricane kind of put a damper in my plans, and also school started. If you watched my last podcast, you'll know that I'm in grad school, and I just have to make it till December. So every night this week, I have spent hours doing schoolwork and no hours crocheting. And you would think that I would have crocheted during the hurricane days that we had, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, but I crocheted only a small amount. Normally crochet is the thing that calms me down. It gets rid of my anxiety, but there was a lot of people in our house. There was a lot of things to be done, and I was a little stressed out for a few days, and I kind of just didn't have the mental capacity to crochet. So I have no finished objects. I feel like that is completely fine, given the circumstances. And also I had 5 in the last podcast, so I'm going to give myself a pass. I do have some works in progress, though. Just because I haven't had a ton of crochet time does not mean I have not been crocheting. You'll know I can't go more than a couple days without crocheting. It drives me crazy. So the first shawl okay, let me say this before I jump right in. All 3 of these whips are shawls. I have not done any crochet on garments right now. But the first one is the Elothea shawl, which is living in my ice cream scoop bag. I got this from Target months ago. I am making this out of Lion Brand Mandala yarn. This is the colorway Gnome. This is my perfect yarn cake. I had 2 of these, and this one was so beautiful. I could not bear to open it, although I'm going to have to because I'm running out of yarn. So that's one cake. This is how much I have left of the first cake. Hardly any. Maybe a few more rows on the shawl. You guys, this yarn is perfect for this shawl. Ooh, I'm all tangled. It's growing. Last time I think I had maybe down to here, something like that done. I've done all of this, and I believe that I have three more lace sections. So as you can see, every section, there's like a lace part, and then there's a row of front post double crochets. Then there's another lace section, then there's another row of front post double crochets. Then there's more lace, more front post. And then there's this lace. So I believe I have two more lace sections and then a border, or maybe one more lace section and then the border, but they're both fairly large sections. So as you can see right now, it's already this big, like a little shawlette size. And I obviously am going to run out of this yarn. So it's a good thing I have two. This is the only project I worked on when the hurricane was coming, because it made me happy. Like, the colors are so awesome. And I love the way that it seems like most of the lace is done in one color. Now, of course, as we get bigger and bigger, that's not really going to be the case, but I think it's so cool that it's done in sections. And I have on here my little stitch keeper, which is a donut. Makes me happy. And the donut has rainbow sprinkles, and this is a rainbow cake of yarn. So I'm really happy with how this is turning out. I've wanted to make this shawl for so long. However, I tried once, and the written instructions on the pattern confused me so much. I had no idea what I was doing. But what I would recommend to you is, if you can read a crochet chart, you can make this pattern. Now, not every single row is charted, so you have to pay attention to what you're doing. But I found that between the chart and the written instructions, I was easily able to figure it out. Normally where I run into an issue is the beginnings of the rows and the middle, like where the point is in the shawl. So I just always double check. And once you get the pattern down for one row, it's really easy to remember. So if you've been on the fence about the pattern and you can read a crochet chart, I think you'll be just fine. That is work in progress number 1. Work in progress number 2 is my Maritime Stripes shawl by Stephanie Bold. This is the shawl. Let's see, it's my current Tunisian crochet project. You can see all my little sticky notes with numbers. This is how I have to keep track of what row I'm on, because I don't really own a stitch counter that goes above 100. I am on row 171 out of 241, so I'm getting there. I am using Loops and Threads wool-like yarn, which is acrylic. You can find this at Michael's. It is $3 a ball. And it's very soft, like extremely soft. And I have made 2 shawls out of this previously and loved them. So I am a fan of wool-like yarn. It is so inexpensive. And I would say it's probably a light fingering. It says it's lace weight yarn, but this is not lace weight yarn. I have lace weight yarn to show you in the next project. It is much larger than lace weight yarn. This is how much I have done. What? So we've got, this is where I started, on this corner. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and now I've started decreasing. My favorite thing about this shawl is the cool knit stitch detail going right up the middle. And these colors on the camera right now are coming up very true. Which this thing seems to be impossible to take a picture of. Every time I take a picture of it, the colors come out looking crazy. So I'm really happy that showed up. I think last podcast I was probably about here. So I have done a fair amount of work, all of this, and these are the longest rows. So I'm pretty happy with that. I actually worked on this last night for a couple hours while we were watching Harry Potter. And I thought, silly me, I thought that I was going to have this done by this morning. No. Are you kidding me? I think I did like 30 rows. And I was going pretty fast. And of course the rows are getting faster because they're getting smaller. But there's no way that I would be able to squeeze out another 70 rows in one movie. What was I thinking? But I am really excited about this because I'm excited about wearing it as soon as it's done. I'll have to block it and wash it. And when I block it, it's going to grow a little bit. I did want to show you. Look at this. I didn't notice this until way too late to unravel and fix it. I dropped a stitch. Look at that. Right there, I dropped a stitch. Was not paying attention. Dropped one. Now, I am certainly not going to unravel all of this just to fix that stitch. And normally I would say it doesn't matter, no one will notice, but there's a hole. So I think once I'm done with the shawl, I'm going to take some blue thread and sew up the hole, so at least it's not a hole. It doesn't bother me so much that the stitch itself was dropped, but that hole bothers me. Sad. So sad. This was going to be my perfect project. And now it has a hole. That's okay. I can sew it up once I'm done. And hopefully next time I podcast, that should be done because the rows are getting so much smaller. If you have not tried Tunisian crochet before, I would not start on that pattern because you will need to know how to increase, decrease in Tunisian simple stitch, as well as increase 2 in Tunisian simple stitch, as well as do a knit stitch. So, as well as work with lace weight yarn. That might be a little much if you've never done anything in Tunisian crochet. I am really happy I did a worsted weight project first, and this one is just flying. It took me a few rows to get my rhythm, but I'm happy with it now. I do have one more work in progress, and it is my leaf line shawl, which is for the September shawl along. It's my September shawl along project. The pattern is the leaf line shawl by Aparna Rolf. I know that's kind of a bad picture. The pattern is free on Ravelry. It's a free pattern you can download, and the pattern is very well written. Now I am about halfway through now. I'm on row 24 out of about 56, I think, and it's so well written. It tells you exactly what to do. This is lace weight yarn. See the difference? Let me just show you. Clearly not the same. This yarn is Knit Picks 100% Baby Alpaca in the colorway Rose. This is my first skein that I have wound up. I just want to say I'm probably halfway through it. It's so soft. I love this yarn, and I got it from knitpicks.com. It was a discontinued colorway, which they might still have some if you go there, but it was only $4 a skein, a 50-gram skein, and you get 440 yards for 50 grams. So it's not much bigger, but it has grown a little bit. This is my leaf line shawl. Last time it was probably around here. It was a little baby leaf line. So it has grown. I do think this is going to be way too small, which someone had warned me about before I started this pattern, to use a bigger hook. So I have been using a bigger hook, but it's not supposed to be quite that lacy because the leaf lines get lost. So maybe I'll make it again. When it's like this, you can see all the front post and back post double crochets looking like a leaf. But when it gets stretched out, it becomes harder to see. Unless maybe it's on a background, you might be able to see it like that. I do think it's going to be too small, but it's very soft. The only thing I don't like is back post double crochets in lace weight yarn. They take forever for me. I don't know. I am a little faster at them now that I've been working on this shawl, but one row of this takes quite a long time, which is fine. But if you were making this in a worsted or fingering weight yarn, even a worsted, maybe worsted or sport, it would grow so fast. And this is so many rows. To not have It's like not even a little neckerchief. It's too small for that. But it is beautiful. I love the hot pink. This is the back of it. And I think once it's blocked, it won't curl at all. So it's a good thing the September shawl along I decided to make not just the month of September. I decided to make it go all the way till October 31st because there's no way I'm going to have that done in 2 weeks. Literally no way. It's lace weight yarn, y'all. You know, the struggle is real. Would you believe those are the only 3 projects I have? When I said I didn't have a lot of crochet time, I meant it. But that's okay. I do want to show you an upcoming project, which I am really excited about. It is living in my giant cat bag, which my best friend Caitlin made me. Hi, Caitlin. She's a most wonderful seamstress. I am going to be making, I'm sure you guys have seen this before, this elephant pillow. Have you seen the Josephina and Jeffrey elephant pillow pattern? I'm sure you have, floating around. Someone has requested that I make this for them, for a Christmas present to give someone. This pattern I got it off of Etsy. It's 22 pages. And it's got very detailed pictures, everything, on how to do all of it. The eyes, the bow, the ears. I think the actual circles are going to be the easiest part because you just work them in a spiral, then you stuff it. The pattern is $5.50, which I am happy to spend on a pattern that is that adorable and this well written. The yarn I will be using is Red Heart Super Saver in the colorway Turca, which I believe it's just turquoise. So it says it would take 5 skeins. So I went to Joann's and I got 2 of the jumbo balls, which are 2 skeins each and 1 little one. And then for the bow, it's gonna be pink. So cute. I have some stash yarn in black and white that I can use to make the eyes for the elephant. So I'm really excited. I'm like an elephant pillow. That's adorable. Okay. It's been a while since I've worked with Red Heart Super Saver on a project, actually. I most likely am not going to block that project because once you crochet it up in acrylic yarn, it is going to be stiff. But I think for a pillow, it needs to be stiffed and not floppy, all flopping around. I want those ears to stick out. In the Super Saver Jumbo Ball, you get 744 yards, and it is 396 grams or 14 ounces. This is a worsted weight yarn. Good thing about acrylic is you can wash and dry it, although I don't think I'm going to on this one. And supposedly you can make this a center pool ball. I've never had any luck center pool balling on Red Heart. Always seems to result in a bunch of yarn barf. But I'm excited about that. Hopefully I'll have some progress for you to show next time on that project. My goal is to get that done by mid-October so I can ship it off to its new home. Elephant pillow. I like commissions because it gives me a chance to make something that I normally would not make. Because I am pretty stuck in I like to make what I want to wear or want to own. And I have no use for an elephant pillow. But it's adorable. So I'm really glad I'm making it. Some people have asked me if I have an Etsy shop where I sell things. I do not. I will do on an individual basis some commissions, but I don't want to make the same thing over and over and over again. I do not want to make 30 of the same hat. I would be incredibly bored, and it would take the joy out of it for me. So for me, the joy of crochet is to make something new, make something exciting, and make something that I love. Whereas if I made 30 of the same thing, it would just turn into another job for me, and it would no longer be relaxing. So I'm excited about that elephant pillow. The next segment is going to be Happy Yarn Mail. I do have some acquisitions to show you. The first thing I want to show you is a lovely, lovely gift by Rebecca, who is Tree Frog Yarn on Instagram. She sent me, she's also the moderator of my Ravelry group. She sent me a project bag, a handmade project bag that she made herself just to do it. She just sent me a project bag. I got this on Friday. I might have gotten it on Thursday. I think I opened it on Friday last week. We were in the middle of prep for the hurricane. We were like boarding things up and cleaning the house, and I was pretty stressed out. Not gonna lie. Like, I just had some anxiety. I was not having a great day. And then this came in the mail, and I opened it, and it literally made me tear up a little bit. I'm a fairly emotional person to begin with, but like, this was so sweet of her, and it came on the perfect day because I was having an awful day and there was a hurricane coming, and she sent me this, and I got to open it, and it made my whole day better. And honestly, we packed an overnight bag in case we needed to go to a shelter, and this was in there. I would not have left this bag because it's so special. You can see the pattern. It's got these beautiful flowers, and in the inside is green. It's like a green that perfectly matches the leaves. This thing is so professional. Like, I cannot even see any seams. Or maybe, you can't see any stitches. Like, obviously that's a seam, but I can't see any stitches. It's magic is what it is. It's sewing magic. And it's the perfect size for a shawl bag. It's canvas. It's like a canvas material. It's very sturdy. And it has this drawstring. Oh, it's so beautiful. So, Rebecca, I know you watch this. Thank you so much. You really improved my whole day, my whole weekend, and made me feel so much better in a really stressful time. And I'm going to treasure this forever. It's going to be a project bag that I use continually. I already have yarn in it. I have some Loops and Threads Wool-like in Teal Lake. I have 3 skeins of this, so it fits with a little extra room that I am going to be working on a project. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet because I don't know if it's going to work, but I just thank you. Thank you. It's beautiful, and you're the sweetest. Second happy yarn mail that we got is a gift for the cow. We have a giveaway. So when the September Shawl-along concludes, we will have a prize, and this will be one of the prizes. Julie, the lovely Julie, who is one of my yarny friends from Ohio, contacted me and said that she has this kit to make a shawl. It's the Una shawl by Vicki Brown. It's more like a little shawlette, but it's super cute. And she did not want to make this. She had purchased the kit and then decided that she wasn't going to make it. So she offered so generously to donate it to the podcast as a giveaway prize. She sent the pattern, this beautiful purple yarn. I do not know what the colorway is for this because it didn't come with a ball band, but it came as a kit with this pattern. So it is, I believe, the Vicki Brown Designs bamboo sock yarn. So it would be 80% merino, 20% bamboo. It is so soft. Like, it smells good. It's gorgeous. Like, that yarn is going to make such a pretty shawlette. And she sent a little tiny wool wash with it so that you can wash and block this once it's done. So thank you so much, Julie. This is going to be in the stash for prizes at the end of the cow. As you know, we have a ball of mandala yarn to give away, and I also am going to be making some stitch markers to give away. So right now we have a couple of prizes. And then Vicki also sent me, so sweetly, some tea, which I'm going to include the purple one in with this yarn because it matches, you guys. So if you win this shawl kit, you're also going to get some Talbot Tea's Paris breakfast tea. It's called A Cup of Couture. And then there is Soho Earl tea, chocolate strawberry temptation, and luscious lemon meringue. I haven't tried these yet. I'm saving them. Next week I'm going to be in school, and I'm going to take them with me. And then she sent me a face mask, which I'm also saving to take with me to school. Just kind of pamper myself a little bit. So Julie, you're so sweet and so generous. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. And whoever is the lucky recipient of that shawl prize is going to be thrilled. The last happy yarn mail I got is actually an order that I placed myself. Someone had let me know, Wendelin had let me know that Premier Yarns was having a sale one day. So I went on and I bought some yarn. And it came in the mail just a couple days ago. This is the Isaac Mizrahi Craft. Sorry, you can't really see the white. It blows out. It is 85 grams, 213 yards, 50/50 merino acrylic. This, not superwash merino, so it cannot go in a washer or dryer. It has to be hand washed. I got 5 blue and 4 red. I want to make a cardigan, a striped cardigan. So my request to you guys is if you have a favorite crochet cardigan pattern, long sleeve cardigan, please, because I want to actually be long sleeves. If you could comment below and tell me what the pattern name is or link to it, I would love that because I'm going to make one. I don't know when, but I'm going to. The only thing I have to say is this yarn smells terrible. Like, it's been airing out on my kitchen table for 2 days, and it still smells awful. It smells like it's been in a warehouse for a long time, and it's just like, ugh. I don't know. I'm going to leave it out to air out, and maybe, I don't want to wash it before I use it, but I may end up having to because it really is quite an intense odor coming off of this yarn, which is probably why it was on sale. They just want to get rid of it. Nothing a little wool wash can't fix. However, I don't have any wool wash currently, so I'm going to have to go buy some before I start using this yarn. And then it will smell much better, I believe. So that's my last one. It's pretty soft. I don't know that I would want it. I think it would be okay to have as a shawl, but maybe not in the heat. Because Florida is very hot, as you know. And the hotter something is, the pricklier wool feels on your skin. So that's why I want to make a cardigan out of it. Because my skin is very sensitive. And around my neck and on my face, I can only have really soft things. Because I'm just kind of so itchy. So sheepy wool, as much as I would like to make things out of it, I cannot make something to be worn usually out of it, at least anywhere up here. I think a hat would be fine. But I'm going to make a cardigan out of this, so I'm kind of excited. That was my happy yarn mail. I did want to talk about one other thing before I sign off. It is not necessarily yarn related, but it can be. And that is guilt. Now, before you run away and go, oh no, this is a place of positivity and happiness, don't tell me about guilt. Yes, I do my best to make this podcast a place of happiness, positivity, acceptance for everyone. But most people, including myself, tend to have a little problem with guilt when it comes to taking care of ourselves. And even when we're overscheduling ourselves. So, as you know, I talked about in the last podcast, I'm in grad school. I'm taking 3 graduate level classes. I should be done in December with my degree. I also have a full-time job. I also have responsibilities at church that take up several hours a week. I also have my husband, which is not a responsibility. That is something that I actively want to spend time with him. And he needs to know that I'm there for him and that I love him. I can't just ignore him and only do stuff for myself. So the question becomes, how do you take care of yourself when you are overscheduled? Many of us have this problem. Whether you are single and you overschedule yourself, you work all the time. If you're a parent, of course you know kids are just suck up every minute of your time. If you're in school, so many demands on our time. And normally my approach to this is to schedule my calendar like down to the minute and go, okay, and from this time to this time I'm going to do this. And then after that we're going to go see a movie. And then that'll be my rest time for the week. So when it comes to crocheting, I know a lot of people feel guilty taking care of themselves because they feel like they should be doing something else. So instead of sitting down and taking 20 minutes to crochet on something that fills your tank, you're like, oh, I have to clean the house. I have to run errands. I have to go grocery shopping. I have a paper that's due. I have work deadlines that are due. If I just stay up another hour and don't go to sleep, it'll be fine. I'll just get everything accomplished. And what it does is it just continually drains your tank. So if you think of yourself as a tank, you have an input and you have an output. When the output outweighs the input, you start having problems. So you're stressed out, you're exhausted, you have anxiety. All of these things which I am currently experiencing because grad school. And most of the time I'm like, I don't have time. I don't have time to sit down and watch a movie. I don't have time to sit down and crochet for a half an hour. I don't have time to go to bed early because everything won't get done. And sometimes that is true. However, when you get to the point where your tank is completely empty, you're probably going to have a meltdown. And last night, I had done, every night this week I've done school. Last night, I was just feeling very anxious. And instead of sitting down and doing some assignments that aren't due until Sunday, so I have a little bit of time, but I like to be prepared. So instead of sitting down and do that, I sat down, I watched Harry Potter with my husband, and I crocheted for 2 hours. And I worked on this, my maritime striped shawl. The first 30 minutes of the movie, I was like up here. I was a little anxious. I was like, I shouldn't be doing this. I have too much to do. I could feel the stress. By the end of the movie, I was relaxed. I was calm because crochet calms me down. Spending time with my husband calms me down. That's stuff that fills my tank. And today, I am happy. I'm more positive. I'm more well rested because I went to bed at a reasonable time. And I have something to show for it because I actually worked on something beautiful even though I was feeling anxious. And I just want to encourage you that if you are one of those people like me who sit down to take care of yourself for 15 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour, that it's okay. You need that in your life. I need that in my life. Everything cannot be stressful all the time. We are only human. We need sleep. I need sleep especially. And if you have constant demands on your time that are draining your tank, you need to make sure that your input is filling you back up. So if you have a few moments, I would recommend just sitting down and writing out what drains your tank. What, when you do it, makes you miserable. And what, when you do it, makes you calm, gives you a sense of peace, gives you a sense of happiness. And try to schedule some things in. And don't look at your calendar and go, okay, from everything's already scheduled and I'm going to try to squeeze some self-care in. What you need to do is schedule your self-care. So if on a Wednesday, you know that's going to be a rough day, Schedule some self-care on Tuesday before, and maybe in the middle of Wednesday on your lunch break. Something that will make you feel better. Don't just keep pushing it off. That's my recommendation to you. That is the only way that I am able to survive grad school. So hopefully that resonates. I know maybe I'm just talking, but for me, it's definitely a huge thing that I struggle with, is feeling guilty while taking a break. But taking a break is what enables me to actually accomplish all of the things on my calendar that I have scheduled. So, with that being said, I do want to mention that it's possible there may be no podcast in 2 weeks. It may be 3 weeks before I podcast again, because this coming week I will be in school Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then the next week after that I'll be in school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I will be back at work on Thursday, and on Friday, which the next day after that, Saturday, is when I would normally podcast. My husband and I are going to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios in Orlando, and then we're going to Harry Potter World the next day. So I, as you can tell, am extremely excited about that. But that is going to be right in the middle of my regular podcasting day. So if I don't have a chance to podcast in 2 weeks, it will be 3 weeks. I may try to get one in on that Sunday, though, when we come home. So if you like this, give me a thumbs up. Hit subscribe if you would like to stay updated on any new videos that I upload. Thank you so much for watching. You guys really brighten up my week, and I love doing this. I love connecting with you. Leave me a comment below if you have a favorite cardigan pattern, and tell me what you're working on. I love to know what you guys are hooking at the moment. So I think that's it. Have a great 2 or 3 weeks. Until I see you again, happy crafting. Bye!